to Relatively Related. I'm your host for today, Terry Phillips.
And I'm Tari.
I'm Trudy.
And I'm Troy Penny.
Good. So how's everyone doing today?
Pretty good.
Can't complain.
Good.
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm excited about today's topic.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, before we go into today's topic, I just have some weird and because we want to get into our Caribbean roots and everything like that. So
Absolutely.
I was just looking up some because we all are law-abiding citizens, I think, right?
Well, speak for yourself,
I
man.
am.
Speak for yourself.
You see, Tara can answer that at all. He didn't say a word.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's pretty quiet. I mean, we all break some, I'm sure everyone here speeds a little or whatnot.
You go over the speed limit a bit.
Of course.
Yeah.
We've all done that.
Yeah, we've all done
that.
And sure, it's if you look at some of the laws that some countries have, some of them have some crazy laws which, you wouldn't believe that's a law or what.
That's true.
Right?
This is very true.
I think in Florida is one of them. I could be wrong, but if you can't drive with bare feet or something like that. So it has some crazy laws right there. So what I wanted to do, I looked up some crazy laws in some of the Caribbean countries which I didn't think existed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So first off, let's start off with our beautiful country, Grenada.
Hey.
Yay.
Big up yourself, Grenada.
Style.
All right. So, did you guys know that Grenada, you're not allowed to walk the street with any swimwear? So if you have on your bikini and
That's
your
good.
Speedo,
That's very
that's
good.
not.
Wait, good for who?
I'm just saying, all those tourists who just come and they want to just jiggle up and walk around the room. No.
I mean, if they want to
yourself.
free up, let them free up now.
No.
I guess I think that law is clearly not enforced because you see.
I know it happens.
Tourists doing it all the
It
time.
happens,
Right?
yeah.
And I remember growing up, you're going to the beach, you just throw on your swim trunk.
That's true. Yeah.
But you know what I heard? One time we were in Grenada and the people we were with, they're just I had this army shirt on, our camouflage pattern,
Right.
and they're just oh, you can't go outside with that, and I'm like, what?
Yeah,
no, it's against the law. You can't wear camouflage. I don't know if that's true, but it's one of those crazy laws. If it is true, it's what?
Yeah. So if you guys know why that is, please drop a comment. Please let us know because I want to know.
Actually, that was one of my next crazy laws.
Wow.
Are you serious?
Really?
You see, so it's a thing.
Trudy, you're on it today.
It's actually quite popular in certain Caribbean countries that if you wear camouflage wear, you can be fined.
Yeah, it's
and that's because the government after 1980 to prevent gang members from impersonating soldiers. So that's why it was
That makes sense.
Yeah, so,
makes sense.
So
that makes sense.
Some of the countries that you're not allowed to wear camouflage, right? Like Barbados, Trinidad, and Jamaica.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't hear about Grenada, but maybe it's in Grenada also.
Yeah, probably.
But,
What, that you can't wear camouflage?
camouflage.
Yeah, no, because I tried to once. Yeah,
did,
one
right?
summer I brought camouflage. Well, I didn't bring it. I was packing it.
Yeah.
And my dad saw it in the suitcase. He's
And
like, what happened to it?
So it really is a thing.
Yeah,
I
it's a
thought
thing,
the
it's a
people
thing.
were just
No.
trolling me.
You'll get serious charge. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get charged for that. In St. Kitts, I know Judy was there for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the laws that you're not allowed to do there is that you're not allowed to swear, curse in public. If you drop if you drop the F-bomb or anything in public, you can be charged for that.
Wow.
So I thought that was pretty.
That's freaking insane. I don't even. That's just whatever, man.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so
It's a nice moral law.
Yeah.
I like it.
yeah.
Making sure the citizens behave.
Yeah, man.
And then, So back to Trinidad and Tobago has some crazy ones actually. So one of the ones, you know, like back in Grenada or whatnot, you see people are hanging out like their clothes to dry and everything like that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
In Trinidad, that's not allowed. You're
Oh wow.
not allowed
What?
to air your
Hang
dirty
yeah.
laundry
To dry. You know how they
Really?
just put it on the clothesline and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
I
not.
guess you can't do that.
But specifically, if it's to the street, that's a big no-no. You can be, yeah. And some of the ones in Trinidad is actually pretty interesting. Like you can't sleep in public places, beg, tell fortunes.
Okay.
And when I look at this one made me laugh. I don't think anyone would want to have that, but you're not allowed to have a mongoose as a pet.
A what?
A mongoose.
A
mongoose as a pet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh
good.
Wow! I mean, why would you want to have a mongoose
exactly.
as a pet? Oh my God! Maybe it's for them tourists and them. Anyways.
Again.
And in St. Lucia, I thought this one was really. I like this one actually. You can't use unkind words or gestures in public to anyone. So it's like a be kind law.
Troy loves this one.
Who's
No, I don't.
enforcing these rules though? That's what I would love to
Yeah.
know. Like the kind police is walking around. I should get that job.
Oh, like if something happened to you, like.
But then
no,
what would hold on?
But if you're talking
Trudy,
to someone,
hold on. Sorry, Ty, but you want to be the kind police.
Yeah.
So if you were to, okay, let's role play right now. I'm a bad boy. Come up to me, kind police.
Excuse me, sir.
you're not.
What you want?
I heard you being unkind to someone.
But
I don't know what
You see how I don't have to say anything.
No,
Like,
But I
it's
wonder-
a case of, let's say the two of you are talking and you say something
Yeah.
unkind and the kind police is walking by.
right.
They'll be like, hey, I'm going to arrest you for what you said.
And then you just slap him in the face and run away.
I'm just wondering if,
Oh, God.
if like when people are having conversations, they
Oh, God.
like if you're rude to them, they can be like,
Yeah.
I'll
Kind
report you.
police.
I'm sure because because the Caribbean places are more tourism driven.
Right.
I'm sure that law is more like, okay, you don't want to be unkind or give a rude gesture.
Oh,
That's
okay,
true. Okay, I can see
Tourist
that
or
now.
something like that, right?
It's
Yeah.
kind of like when
You know,
your parents are bringing you to your friend's house and they're just like, okay, make sure you behave yourself.
yourself,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And then you're
Okay, so now let's get into the discussion for
All right,
today,
sounds
which
good.
is
oh man.
Black Fatherless homes.
Right.
So I guess my first question for you guys, when I mention Black Fatherless home, what do you think about it?
The first thing that comes to my mind is just the negative stereotypes that you would hear about, the
Yeah.
Black fatherless home, or the dad being like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go out and get some cigarettes, and then he never comes back. Like that's the
Yeah.
that's the joke. I remember once, well not once, but there was this meme on TikTok, and like there was this trend where kids were like, oh,
Yeah.
come on dad, and then the dad
I
would say,
know.
come on dad, and then the dad would like call the granddad and come on dad,
Yeah.
right? And then like these white kids did it first.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And they went all the way, I think, to like 5 generations.
Yeah.
And then this black kid, he like did his thing, and after like he was like, "Come on, dad."
And no one
There was
was
no one
there.
there.
Oh,
yeah,
and
that
like
was so bad.
it's funny, but
haven't
it's
seen it.
actually sad because
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's the reality of not a lot of
Yeah,
situations,
yeah,
but
for
some.
for some, yeah.
Because we have to change that narrative. That
Yeah.
it's not a lot of. There aren't like a bunch of black men who
Oh, we-
aren't in their children's life. Like,
And then also
there.
while we're changing the narrative, we have to make sure that we make it like clear that it's not just like obviously we're talking about our community,
of course, yeah.
but it's not that men are missing only in black homes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
You know what I
that's
mean?
Very, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
There's
big point.
There's a lot of bad dads.
I don't get it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's just black people. Like, no,
Yeah,
clearly,
no,
like it's in all races,
Yeah.
like
Yes.
white, Asian, Indian, everything.
Yeah.
So now that we've cleared that up, we can go forward.
We could go forward,
Cool.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm not sure if you guys heard this stat before, but it's one of the things that is always showed out there, especially when it comes to the media and stuff like that. That it mentioned that 70% of children, of black children, are fatherless, and that stat is always so right there. When you hear that, what do you think? What do you think about that?
It don't make sense.
No,
like it makes
doesn't.
no sense to me. It's
doesn't.
like, how could 70% of Black children not have a father?
In their home.
Like,
In their home.
okay, that's what I'm saying. Either complete the sentence, like, in what case? Because if you 70% don't have a father, then
Yeah.
how did these 70% come into existence?
Virgin
But I-
birth, obviously.
Virgin.
But I
holy-
think they mean like in their life, like
In their life, yeah.
And still with that, like it's weird because there are other statistics and studies that have shown that in terms of the races, when you look at races, Black men, even though they may not be, let's say, necessarily living in the home,
yeah.
they are very active in their kids' lives.
Yeah. Well, that's
That's the one I'm like, so how
And
come no
that's-
one talks about this?
But the thing
And
is,
that's
right?
something that we're going to get into as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Which is a really good point that you make, that even though they may not necessarily be living with their kids, they definitely have, they interact with their kids more. They do more
Yeah.
with this stuff than
Yeah.
any other is. So that's something we are going to get into.
Yeah. So when I hear that statistic that you mentioned about the 70%, I try to think like what's causing that and what's the context? Like where is it happening? Is it happening in the sort of in North America versus because I know we try to take a West Indian slant to things. Like, is it the same in the Caribbean? Because in the Caribbean, like growing up, a lot of times maybe the father wasn't like there, but he was still like doing stuff to provide or whatever.
Right, yeah.
Not in the home. But I don't know how it is in America versus like Canada and stuff like that. So things like that is what I initially think of. But I do think it's something we should at least look at and like see how we can improve as a community, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Right,
'cause
yes.
if there is an issue, we should try to see, okay, what can we do for the next generation? Like there's 3 of the 4 of us here are men, right? And 2 of us are fathers. Troy, you're gonna be a father. So it's like, what do we do?
In the distant future, by the way, guys.
Oh yeah,
Not soon.
that sounded like you
Yeah,
have a child.
yeah. It
boy.
sounds like I got a kid. I don't even have somebody right now. So it's kind of weird. But anyways, go ahead. Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
get
so
you're
that's what
saying,
I'm
yeah.
thinking. Improving, like,
Yeah.
yeah. Go
And
ahead.
the first thing that I think is important that we have to do before we even get into it is like what the actual definition of fatherless mean, right? Because you can't just be like, oh, I'm fatherless, right? Because if someone is living with their parents, but with their father, but their father is not really interacting with them, they can just be like, yeah, he's there, but I'm still fatherless. He's not involved in my life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's something that we have to consider as well when we actually talk about fatherless home. But the definition of it is when a child you describe as fatherless is when the father has died or does not live with them. So when you hear that, like especially within our Black community per se, what a lot of the numbers don't account for is that, and that's why the stat itself is very misleading, and you guys can all attest to that, is that it doesn't necessarily mean, because their definition of fatherless means that the father is not within the home. So a lot of the times, Black fathers, they're not necessarily living with their kids or whatnot, but they are involved with the kids. But because they're not living with them, they're considered fatherless, which is, doesn't make sense to me. They still have a father, but because they're not necessarily living with them, it's like, oh, you're considered fatherless.
So then here's a question that I have, right? I sometimes wonder if we're using that as a definition, if your father does not live with you. So what about the situations where, because what I've noticed in a lot of the Caucasian communities, the parents would separate. The mom and dad are divorced. The dad lives one place and then the kids live with their mom or something like that. What about those situations? The father clearly is not there.
That would
he doesn't
count.
live. So then if it counts, then are they taking those numbers into same account?
Well, I guess so, but I guess so, but this one is not about that, right? It's
But no,
about-
I'm just asking, like, does that still apply? Like, is it only looking at cases like, let's say the parents are not married, then you count that as because the dad is not living with the mom, they're not married, they were never married,
Right.
that makes you a fatherless child as compared to if your parents were married and then they separated.
No,
Is
I-
that child still considered
No.
fatherless?
No, I don't think they consider that as fatherless because, separation happened or whatnot. What they consider fatherless is pretty much once you're unwed, like once you're not married to that
Or you're
person,
not in
yeah.
the home, right? You're not,
You're
in,
not
the
in the
home.
home.
Even because you could be in the home, like common law, whatever.
Yeah.
And that'd be considered to be like your father in the house.
Mm.
But what gets me is that like you can actually be in the home and not be a father.
It's
Oh
true.
yeah, no,
It's
that
true.
okay because
That's what gets me.
It's true.
yeah, this is a Caribbean show, and we
Yeah.
always try to skew it that way. Those men are called worthless.
Yeah,
basically.
worthless. Yeah,
they're just
worthless.
worthless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know of like situations where like there are people they grew up with their father in their home. I'm sure you guys all know, but they were treated really badly. The father looked down upon
Neglected,
them,
yeah.
neglected them. So it's like, yeah, you in the statistic you wouldn't count as fatherless, but it's almost like it's better you didn't
And
have
then
a father.
the flip side, you have some kids where the dad lives somewhere else.
Yeah,
But he's
doing
very
his job.
active. Like, he's
Like,
always there. He goes to
Yeah.
all your events.
or you
He's
could be
there.
married to
Yep.
someone
Married
else,
to
but
someone
he's
else, and he
still
does some,
yeah.
like, yeah. So that's why to me, this thing is just kind of weird. Like,
It's just
like,
I think it's society still trying to hold on to the whole nuclear family,
Yeah.
the perfect
Yeah.
family,
Yeah.
which is
really and truly.
which is the perfect
I mean,
family.
I mean, sure, based on
Nah, I'm just joking,
personal
but yeah.
thing, but like
Yeah.
for me, it's just like society and life is evolving at such a
Evolving, yeah.
rapid pace,
Yeah.
and the way things used to be now, because they're different, doesn't mean that it's bad. It just means that it's just different. That's it.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot to be, and we're going down a whole different
know.
thing.
We're
but
unpacking a lot right
yeah,
here.
there-
Yeah.
It's going different places, which
yeah.
is good, right?
So anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead, Terry. I'm not gonna.
No, go ahead. It's okay.
No, I was just gonna say there's a lot to be said. There is. I think the best situation for a child to grow up in is to see the father at home and the father to actually be involved.
Active.
Yeah.
But the point is
Absolutely.
that doesn't happen most of the time. Not most,
Yeah,
but a lot of the time
there's-
it doesn't happen.
There's a lot of benefit of the dad actually living with, like, we can't deny that. There's
Yeah.
a lot of benefits of that, right? But my focus today is going to be on an article that I actually read, and it's called "The Dragging Out the Absent Father, Black Fatherless Again," and it was
Okay.
written by just so I can get his name right, Josh Levs. We'll post the article and stuff like that. And the reason why I use him, because there's a lot of articles right there on that, but he's actually a Caucasian individual who did the research, and he just like, wait, some of these things doesn't make sense. He wrote a book on it and everything like that. So in the article, there's a lot of stuff that he said with it, but I got three main points that I wanted to focus our discussion today on. The first one, which I thought was really good, and Trudy again alluded to it, that the data from the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, the CDP or whatever
CDC.
they're called, CDC, yeah, verified that the majority of Black fathers actually live with their children. So just they did the research, and they actually find that 2.5 million versus 1.5 million actually, so 2.5 live with them versus 1.7 million don't. So that whole stat that the fathers don't live in the home is actually false.
Yeah.
It's
So
very
who is
misleading.
going around saying this thing so much? Like,
I don't
that's what
know.
gets me so upset. Like,
I don't know.
it's
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Well,
that
I
part
mean,
gets me so upset. It's
No,
like,
I think
ugh.
I think it's one of those things where there is some truth to it. You know, like
There is,
you know,
but-
like
But
how
if these numbers are saying otherwise,
No, but-
then why are there people going around trying to use statistics? 70% of Black fathers.
yeah,
but this, the numbers
here-
are showing that's not
here's
the
what I'm
case.
saying.
Oh my
There
gosh.
are some cases.
This is getting heated.
It's,
Yeah, go
this
ahead.
topic really
Yeah.
bothered me.
There
but yeah.
is some truth to it. So then people, like even Black people who are in that situation, they talk about it. Like the three of us, us were like we grew up in homes with our father and stuff, but there's a lot of black people who didn't, and they talk about it a lot. Like when you look on like YouTube or anywhere, you can find a lot of young black people talking about the experience of growing up without a father. So that's
perfectly fine. If that's your experience, that's beautiful. You can share, but don't start using numbers that you can't like actually say like, yes, this is where the research has been done. This is the studies. This is what these numbers are based on. That's what I don't like with statistics sometimes. Like for some people, they just use it.
Yes,
I was trying to answer.
Go ahead, Tyler.
No, I was trying to answer a question. That's one example of who's spreading that, right? And also the media and stuff as well is
like that, yeah.
Is spreading that and stuff because they're seeing that, whether positive or negative, and even like a lot of like we have to see like what's causing it to continue. Like if you listen to like a lot of like rap music and stuff, they're spreading this rumor that like, you know, not rumor, but they're spreading this thing of like it's cool to like you have a bunch of kids and you just do whatever and stuff. So like it's a self perpetuating kind of thing where like even though it's based on something that is not 100% accurate, people who are experiencing it are talking about it, so it's making you believe that it's happening more. It's like crime. Like if you look throughout the history, crime is actually less now. But if you look at the news, you would think it's so bad and stuff. Like you would think New York is still so bad, but the crime in New York has gone down over the past few decades, right? So, but when you look on the news, you'll be like, oh my gosh, that's such a scary place. So it's the same with the black fathers. I do think a lot of black guys are way more involved now. You see a lot of black guys doing stuff, braiding their kids here. Like you never see that. You never see that in some of the other races. So. However, they don't take that. They take the negative.
And
right?
that is my problem. My thing is like the media is the one that's trying to portray and push this narrative that the black community is going through this epidemic of, you know, fatherless children and whatnot. But I think it's about time that, like, especially as black people, we're just like the ones who I've seen and they know, like, I have fathers, brothers, you know, uncles who are in their children's lives. Like, we have to change that. Like, I don't want people they're just gonna look at Tara and be like, oh, here's one of those black men who don't take care of their kids. No, like, that's foolishness, and that's why it needs to stop, and I don't want it to perpetuate. And when I hear people making statements like, oh yeah, 70% of black men are not in our kids' lives, you gotta correct it and be like, no, maybe like, where did you get that from? Which article did you read and what type of study did you see? And when they can't give an answer, they realize, oh, I'm just repeating something that I heard without fact checking it. Like, no,
but
like, stop talking.
The thing is though,
the reality is based on numbers, most black fathers live with their kids. It's just that this whole negative thing that's shown out there that they don't, it's absolute based on numbers. And if we're going by facts and numbers, a large percentage of black fathers actually live with home.
And the number you mentioned, it's made even more like it's made even worse when you think about it. That some of the, like, let's say he said 1.5 or whatever million are not with their thing, but of that 1.5, some of those are actually still involved anyway. Yeah. So it kind of adds to the number.
That's
That's what the next thing that he mentioned was in the article. And he's talking about the fathers who actually live with the kids now. Black dads are way more involved in the kids' life versus any other races. So with black fathers, 70% of them are most likely to have bathed, dressed, diapered, or even helped with toiletries for every day with their kids. So they're actually really involved with helping raising up the kids versus 60% of white and only 45% of kids. And that's based on the CDC study from, right? And also, more black fathers than white fathers took their children to some form of activity, some form of everyday activity, and help kids with their homework every day. So, you know, black fathers, the ones that are actually living with their kids, are way more involved than versus any other race.
Yeah, but I could really speak on that part because I remember when I was young, my dad used to help me with math, and Lord have mercy.
It's not always desired.
It's not always. Like he did a great job. My dad did an excellent job.
He was involved. That's good.
But like with the math thing, oh god, man. No. I can't. To
You're
this day,
traumatized.
Well,
with this
if you
movie.
ask me to do math, and if you say math like maths, like
Well,
that's
I was gonna
trauma.
say a lot of West Indians they have like trauma when they like talking about like doing homework with their dad or their mom or whatever.
Them
right?
sums
So-
and thing, boy, oh lord, no.
But no, that's a good point, Terry. Like I did hear that statistic before on there was this popular video that was talking about the myth of the absent black father, how involved they are, and I was talking to someone and of a different race, and they were telling me that their husband like puts all the work on them, sort of, right? And they were like, oh, they don't do anything with the kids, and it was just normal for her, and I was just like. I was trying to think. Most of the guys that I know, actually all of the guys that I know in my circle, and it's the same circle as you guys, they're all pretty much in their kids' lives and involved, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the norm for me. But like, I guess there's other people who have different experiences, but for me, it's kind of been the norm.
Yeah, it's definitely. I just feel like it's just something that we know, like
Yeah.
dad helps us or whatnot. But that's something. One thing I don't like about when they mention about the 70% are black, they don't mention that black fathers are really involved. We only hear the negative side of it, and it just drives me crazy when I hear that. Right?
Well, it sells,
Me
right?
too.
It sells.
That's the thing. It sells. It sells.
And I know, I think Troy would like this point, which I'll just mention it. So one of his strongest points, which I'll just mention it. Black people are more likely to be charged, tried, convicted, and sent to jail for all sort of crimes that white people and just Caucasian people are not. So smaller families, black men in general, are being sent to jail at a higher rate than other races, and that's pulling them away from their families.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
the mass incarceration is a huge part of the problem. So their fathers are not around because they don't have an option to be around.
Not by choice.
Yep.
Sorry, real quick. What about that thing you think I go like? Because I ain't like anything what you just said.
No, I mean,
I know.
it's a point that I think you'll agree with. Right?
Yeah. It's like you're taking our fathers away, then you're making fun of us for not having fathers. This is like
With the irony, right, of it all. In that book, the New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander, she talks about that, how a lot of the black guys were getting significantly higher sentences for something like marijuana possession or whatever, something much smaller. And they were being sent to jail for a long time. And let's say, a lot of those guys, let's be real. A lot of those guys, they might have had a kid by the time they're like 20, 21. They were doing whatever they can. Now they're in jail. So automatically that counts as someone who's not involved because he went to jail for just having some marijuana or something.
Yeah, the same Jake, Jim, and Joshua.
Yeah. Well, not Joshua. Joshua, you.
Who knows? I'm just making up some names. Billy.
We know Joshua.
They had the same amount of marijuana and they did not end up in jail.
But okay, have you seen that video on I think it's on
Vice.
YouTube or Vice, of this young man who he went to Colombia, got a whole bunch of drugs.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Put it up his own body. Not even gonna say where. He just put it up in his body somewhere, and then I think it had erupted.
It
Yeah,
erupted,
one of the
One of the bags
of it,
erupted and all that stuff. He went to the hospital and they found all the drugs and stuff. He had a lot of drugs. How much was it? Was it?
It was a lot.
A few $100,000 or a few million
to
or
make
something,
a
right?
lot of money.
To make a lot of money. And homeboy just looked at the doctor in the face and said, "I'm sorry," and he got away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
In what world would that happen to someone else?
I know. To a black person.
No other world.
Not to
And then we
Jamal.
wonder why the fathers are missing.
Yeah, I know.
That's weird to me.
And sorry,
good point.
just the last thing. When we talk about, this being the new Jim Crow, the book,
Yeah.
right? With black men being separated from their families by going to jail. Think about it. Even when
The
you look at
name.
slavery time, they did the exact same
Yeah,
thing.
well, that's
You
why
do
it's called the
understand
new
that,
Jim Crow.
right? They
Hey.
separated the black men from their families. If there was a family, a husband, a wife, and kids, they took the man away and put him on a different plantation from the wife and the
Yeah,
kids.
strategy.
So that's why I'm saying this narrative, it's been around for a long time, and I'm
Yeah.
just tired of it being perpetuated.
Oh yeah.
Right. So, like for us as
Yeah.
Black people, I know Terry. Just before you say that, it's a two-pronged approach, right? We're fighting two battles at the same time.
Yeah.
We obviously have to. Those of us in the Black community do what we can to improve the situation,
Yes.
right? But then another side of it, so any community you fight that same first prong.
Yeah.
In the white community, in the Jewish community, Spanish, you have to fight to improve whatever situation in your community.
Yes.
But I think with blacks and maybe also Hispanics, we also have that second side of it where we have to fight against the negative narrative
Yep.
that's being pushed by outside forces.
You better talk.
So like whites or like Jewish people, it's not as much so to fight that outside negative narrative. And that's the problem, because like there are black guys that are doing positive and stuff, graduating at high rates and doing well in the community.
Having podcasts.
Yeah. However, it's like no one wants to push that narrative. They rather push the narrative of like gang violence or whatever. Not saying it doesn't exist. We have to fight it, but we also have to fight that other thing. So it's really hard when you're fighting on both fronts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an easier narrative to push, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
an easy whereas if you look at the reason why stuff are happening, you're not willing to go into it. It's just an easy narrative to put. Oh, black fathers, they're fatherless. Black kids are fatherless. It's an easy narrative to push. Whereas if you go into the numbers, you'll be like, wait, no, that's not the reality, right? So that's something to think about also. The third thing which he mentioned, which I thought was interesting, it's not as major as the other two, but one of the things that he mentioned is that with black fathers, the fathers live a different address than the mom. So
Okay.
generally speaking, the kids would be under the mom address. Now, because the kid is under the mom address, even though the father is involved in the kid's life, they're considered fatherless because the kid is under the mom address. So that's something also that people are not willing to look into. It's like, wait, the kids are actually, the fathers are actually involved in the kid's life, but because they're not in the same address as the kids, it's like they're considered fatherless.
Yep.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, there's a lot of that community involvement, right? Like, and involvement even though you're not there at the address, which we kind of talked about earlier. So it's kind of good to see that there's research out there that's kind of backing that up. Something that we all kind of know, right? Like the guy may not be home, but he comes and he sends the money and does whatever he needs to do, right? So,
Yeah, and going back to the whole sense of community and thing, you touched on this before off air.
Yeah.
But we were talking and we were saying how the role of uncle
yeah.
is very important in the black
In
community.
the black community. So even if like it's not the scientific or
Yeah,
like
the
biological,
biological.
that's the word.
Yeah.
The
I know what you meant,
biological-
yeah.
The biological father. There's a lot of like community not representative, but
Yeah.
people that you look up to in the community. That's why the whole concept is unique. Like in the black community, there's that respect for the uncle. Like after a certain age, this older guy, he's in his 40s, 50s or whatever, they look up to him. The kids look up to him. They're sometimes an even better role model than the traditional dad.
Yeah.
And that's something that happens a lot in the black community, but we don't get credit for it on the official father
it's not
statistics,
talked
right?
about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the point is there's a male role model
Yeah,
that's like
still there for the kids.
there to enforce discipline and there to
Yep.
be an example.
And that's what
Yeah.
the statistic is trying to show. It's trying to show that these black young men don't have the male role models, but
Yeah.
really and truly we do.
Yeah.
It's just from different family, a brother from another mother.
Exactly.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And as we're talking, like another side to it too is even with the church community too,
Yeah.
right? Especially in a lot of black communities and West Indian. If it's one thing, even though a mother is single, right? She's not married.
Preach.
Most of them would either be in some kind of church or they make it their duty to be part of some
Fine,
kind of
yeah.
church so that they can have like, you know, positive male
Role
influences
Yeah.
on their son's life. So but they don't talk about that either, right? So it's
Well,
like, I don't know. It's
even
just
if
interesting.
like the pastor or like an elder in the church
Yeah,
or
they
like
get
a
some
big role
mentor,
model
somebody,
for
yeah.
the person, that doesn't count as like, you
Yeah.
know, but in reality they do have that role model there. So
I do think in general, and I'm sure we can all agree with that black men in general, they need to actually marry the person who they're, you know, they're dating or whatnot. That's something that they like have a traditional family, like, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, but it
what
would
a
be
lot-
helpful.
It will be helpful. But what a lot of people are doing is conflating the marriage statistic to fatherless statistic. And
Good
that's
point.
those two should be separated. Just because some in the black community, just because someone is not necessarily married to the person who they have a kid with,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean the kid is fatherless. And that's something that it needs to be separated. But a lot of people conflate the two, right?
That's
Yeah.
true.
It's going back to the whole, again, the nuclear perfect family thing. Like that's what they're sort of doing with that.
Good point.
From that approach.
yeah, I agree with that 100%. Because just because like you can't automatically assume someone is a father
Yeah.
just because they signed the certificate
Yeah.
that we're married, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we know there's a whole host of problems with that. Like there's a lot of uninvolved married spouses or whatever, right? So yeah.
Yeah, so that's about it. I don't know if any of you have anything to add, but it's something that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah.
I don't like the narrative that black fathers are, you know, that kids are fathers, that black children are fatherless. It's something that I'm really passionate about. And it's just based on pure numbers and everything like that. It's safe to say, and I'm sure you guys can agree with me, it's a myth that needs to stop.
Yeah, totally. And I think like if there, you know, are people who want to have these discussions about like black people being or black kids being fatherless and whatnot, I think like the better thing is talk to a black person, right? That you know, right? Like just talk
You
to
can
a
talk
black
to me.
person and ask them like, oh, so what was your experience like? You know, did you have your dad in your life? Like I'm just saying, like I know it's a very awkward conversation, but my thing is at least
Yeah, it
ask
is
the black
extremely
people because
awkward.
then what you'll know, here's my point. What you may come to realize is if the 10 black people you talk to, 8 of them are like, oh no, yeah, I grew up with my dad. Like he was there. He was active. But then only 2 of them said, oh no, I didn't have my father in my life.
And of the 2, one of them was like, "Oh, but my dad was always around." Like,
Yeah, but he was
hanging out
around.
with
He
me.
just
Yeah.
wasn't married to my mom. So you do your own little mini survey.
but just
no.
wait,
Hear
can
what
I-
I'm saying. I
can
know
I-
I wanna hear
Tyler do
Terry.
the whole
I
little,
wanna hear
the
Terry.
factual statistics
can I
thing,
just
right?
say
Go
something?
ahead. Go
I have
ahead.
to.
No, I want to say just be careful which black people you
Yeah.
ask that
Yeah.
because you might get punched
Yeah.
in the face.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, how has your father been involved? If you ask the wrong black person, that's how
that
I
might
was
trigger some people.
That's
but,
what I was going to
Yeah.
say.
But
You
my
just-
point is this: like, it's more like anecdotal in this
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Like the point is,
Yeah.
as you talk to black people, you may realize that wait, if the majority of people I talk to, they're saying that they had their dad in their life, maybe I need to question this
Yeah.
statistic, this stereotype that I'm believing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's my thing because a lot of times like I'll interact with like white people and they may ask like, you know, you didn't have your dad, like you didn't grow up with your dad, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, no, I did. He
Yeah.
was there the whole time. Like he was very active, very involved, you know? And I think that's really gonna help kind of dismantle this stereotype
Break
and this
down the
myth
stereotypes.
that's out there. Like it's just annoying to the people that actually had good fathers and
Yeah.
good role models, men in their life. Like, yeah, that just bothers me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No,
And it's
you go.
not like it's like your dad obviously your dad is an exceptional father or anything
Yeah.
like that, but it's not like the minority.
No, he's not the exception to the
reality-
rule. No.
Yeah.
Exactly, he's not the exception. The
And that's what they
reality is-
try to make it seem. They're like, oh, that's interesting. That's very
Like,
rare.
that's
No,
from-
it's not. Like everyone I know, like they had their dad. Like, what
That's
do you
from
say?
my personal, and I know it's anecdotal, so, but that's my personal experience. The black people that I'm around, like my friends and stuff like that, they all had their fathers involved in their life. They may not necessarily live with them, but their father played an
Yeah.
important role in their life.
Yeah.
And I'm sure all of you can say something along that line.
Yep.
The people
Yeah.
who you hang out with, a lot of their fathers and stuff are actually involved in their life. So when I hear that, it's like, wait, that doesn't make sense to me because
Yeah, it always
my father
puzzled me.
was there. So many of my friends' fathers are there. They may not necessarily be married, but they're definitely involved in their life in some aspect.
Yep.
Yeah. So like for me, my kind of takeaway is that, just kind of challenge the stereotypes and
Yeah.
just, maybe there's a basis for some of the numbers or whatever the case may be. However, just kind of challenge it and try to think like, where is this coming from? Right? Where is this coming from? And for us as black, if that's for people on the outside, but for us on the inside, just do what we can to be better than whatever happened in the past or whatever the case may be. Let us try to be better and try to do better for the next generation that's coming up, because there is a lot of positive in the black community. There's a lot of positive black role models as men. So we don't want to be starting any snowball effect in terms of negativity. Let's be the best we can, because I do believe that I'm sort of tired of seeing like negativity being the main focus of the media, of people on the outside. No, you need to realize that that's not the reality. The reality is quite different. So let's do what we can to change that.
And my last takeaway is, if you did grow up, if you're a young man and you grew up where you didn't have your father in your life, or you're a young girl, you didn't have your father in your life, change it. Like, it doesn't mean you have to continue that cycle for your next generation. If you're a young man, you have a kid, be
better.
active in their life.
Be
If
better.
you don't have kids yet, try to make it your duty to actually invest in the person that you're interested in. Seek out a partner for life, not like someone where you're going from woman to woman to woman, having a bunch of kids. Like, just stop that. Let's
'Cause if-
stop it so that we don't have this continuing further.
Because if you have a bunch of kids, it's hard to
You can't be in all of their lives at
be
the same
actively
time.
involved in
Involved
10
in all
kids.
of
Yeah,
life,
man.
right? It's harder. It's
too
not
much.
impossible. It's
I mean-
harder.
Yeah, it's just hard.
I mean, that was one of my goals, to have 10 kids.
Unless you have like one team and you can coach that
like-
one team.
Yeah, like me and my wife, we just have 10 kids. We'd
That's
adopt.
okay.
We'd adopt, we do all those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
But one thing that I'd like to say, and the final thing, just to close it all off, is I want to address the black men who are in their children's lives. I see you. I recognize you. I am so proud of you. Thank you for doing what you're
Yes,
doing,
keep doing
because
Yeah.
honestly, you guys are probably one of the most not unthanked, but I'm looking for a word. Thankless. There you go.
Yeah.
Thankless groups of people,
Yep.
and probably one of the most attacked groups of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing a good job. That's it. Like, that's all I could tell you. You're doing a good job. Continue doing that. Continue being that example to me, because I'm watching y'all. I'm speaking to you, Tari, and
Oh,
Terry
cool.
as well. Yeah, because you
Thanks.
guys are the ones who are in your kids' lives, and you guys are leading that example and just showing that we, like the young generation, me coming up behind y'all, like, we don't have to perpetuate the negative
Yeah.
stereotypes.
None of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, so
Yeah.
that's just my little takeaway
Yeah.
to you guys. Thank you for doing what you're doing your role, and being in your child's life. And with that being said, just want to thank you guys for listening. If you like today's episode, make sure to leave a like, drop a comment, make sure to follow us on Instagram, subscribe to us on YouTube, and anything else you guys want to say.
Every social media, like
All of it.
Oh, and
everything.
and just one thing: if you ever had a negative experience, like you saw like a black guy wasn't involved, don't mean that's
for everybody.
that's for everyone.
Yeah.
Challenge
Come
it.
on.
Challenge
Yeah.
stereotypes.
Yes.
Good point.
That's
Yeah.
what we're doing. Challenge it.
That's the week. That's the challenge for this week. Challenge
Yeah.
those stereotypes.
Stereotypes, yeah.
So, with that being said, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.